You're listening to SM Media, the #1 place for exclusive content.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Scottish Football Show right here in SM Media. I'm Scott McBride, delighted to be your host as always. Got a very busy show as always. We're a man down. Shankers is off this week. We're hoping he's back for the extra show later on this week. So we're joined by Wilson. Wilson, how are we? It's been a fascinating...
What's that?
Where'd you steal that from?
I had to beg, borrow and steal from a very good friend of mine. This is how old it is, right enough. What does it say in the back? He gave me about 20 years ago.
I thought it was a training top. Was that a strip?
That was a away strip. That bad boy. A wee away strip for me. Oh, proper as well. For Dundee United fans, you can bid £500 early starting bids. I thought that was introduction gone, so I just thought I'd flash the badge for you.
Yeah, good work. You've caught me off guard there. How are we?
Fine, thank you. Exhilarating weekend of football. Again, Kelly win again, so we're all very happy here.
And we're joined by fresh off his trip to Celtic Park for Sports Sound, Rory Loy. Rory, how are we?
Yes, good. A lot can change in a week. Wilson had the show written off for the rest of the season last week, saying we'd be repeating ourselves every week with Rangers wins and Celtic defeats. So there you go. As I said, a week's a long time.
It's definitely turned round for last week, and we'll touch on the results over the weekend. We'll just go through them chronologically before we touch on each game. Dundee United 1, Rangers 0. St Mirren 1, Hearts 2. And today we saw Celtic 6, Dundee 0, Hibs 3, Ross County 0, Livingston 1, Aberdeen 2, and St Johnstone 1, Motherwell 1. We will start off yesterday at Tannadice. Dundee United 1, Rangers 0. A Jamie Robson goal handed Rangers their first defeat in the league for 17 months. Rory, before we talk about Rangers, we just need to give full credit to Dundee United for a great performance and a well-deserved result, because there was only one team wanted to win that game yesterday.
Yeah, they were good. Very, very good. I think it's a bit of a cliche over the last few weeks, but I definitely think that the crowd gave them a little bit of lift, especially towards the end of the game. I know we've spoken on the show before about the difference a crowd can make. Whether it's on Rangers' side of things and feeling the pressure a wee bit, or whether it's on Dundee United's side of things, not having the ball for long periods of the game, but the crowd being able to cheer them on the last 10-15 minutes, get us that extra yard or two in. But listen, Dundee United were bang at it. I think they learned a few lessons for their performance the previous week against Aberdeen, and Rangers were a yard short all over the pitch. I thought Lundstrom looked a yard off it again. Don't think the balance of the midfield was quite there, and it's been upset a little bit in the last couple of weeks as well. And Morales, having to put him in after what he's went through over the last kind of few weeks, it probably wasn't the ideal scenario going up there in those circumstances. But as you say, the best team won on the day.
I couldn't agree more with that. I just think, as you say, Rangers were a yard short. I think there was a lot of players just didn't turn up. Wilson's been trying to hide his snigger throughout that whole sentence there. Wilson, first of all, what's your thoughts on the result? Were you surprised?
Yes, 100% surprised. Also feel sorry for Don Robertson, who's been demoted this morning after refereeing a Rangers defeat. So he probably won't referee in the SPL again for letting that happen, especially after Lundstrom's tackle in the first 10 seconds, where he could have broke both Peter Pollitt's legs. So, yeah, definitely a surprise result. Dundee United, tough start for them away at Aberdeen, then home to Rangers. I didn't watch the full 90 minutes. I'm only going from the highlights. I thought Aribo looked as if he played really well. Morales had a couple of chances. There was certainly a couple of set-piece opportunities for Rangers. I didn't think it. Again, you're going by the social media and the commentary in the newspapers and things, and it certainly looked as if Dundee United were certainly the hungrier team and maybe wanted it more, but I don't think technically they were miles better than Rangers, or Rangers were miles ahead of them. I think it was just maybe a good old battle as such, but definitely a surprising result, especially after both our respective results last week. But again, it's it's maybe opens up, maybe, you know, from last year, maybe teams think, well, now let's not maybe be scared of Rangers. I think it'd be a completely different story when Dundee United go to Ibrox, you know, where most teams tend to sit in. But if I was a Rangers supporter, which I'm not, in case anyone's misinterpreted me over the last year or so, I wouldn't be hitting the panic button, to be honest. It's a one-off result, that, for me. As I say, I certainly think possibly Steven Gerrard, maybe, and he can prove me wrong when he comes on the show, maybe had one eye on the European game on Tuesday, with the likes of McGregor not featuring. I thought that was a strange one. Now, again, John McLaughlin's a very, very good goalkeeper, but I always think if your best team's available, then your best team plays, and I thought that was a strange one. Not that it contributed to the defeat, you know, but definitely a surprise result.
Goldson's got to score, Scott. I think if Goldson scores that, you know, kind of 5-10 minutes after Dundee United score, I think Rangers potentially going to win the game. But I mean, other than that chance, they had flashes of Evo at times, good feet in and around the box. But you know, that way over the last 17 months or so, you just always knew they'd find a way. It didn't feel that way. You know, you just get a feeling as when you're watching the game, and I just didn't feel like they were going to score. Other than that Goldson chance, I don't think they really troubled Siegrist. He had a couple of ones, you know, the ones where you palm them out to the side just in case the striker's rushing in, but nothing that he was ever going to go past him. But Goldson's was the one and only opportunity. But after that, they seen the game out pretty comfortably. I thought Mulgrew at the back was sensational.
Yeah, I thought he had a really good game as well. I thought that kind of a lot of the game, like when you look at the Rangers midfield, I know it was Davis, Kamara and Lundstrom. That's fine if you're playing maybe at Parkhead in a European game where you're not going to have a lot of the ball and you're not going to create as many chances maybe. But I just felt as if the likes of Davis and Lundstrom were kind of playing the same position. They were kind of getting in each other's way. And I think Aribo, as Wilson says, was the only real creative threat. I thought Kent had a really, really flat game. And I think is that just kind of confidence as well? Was it, what do we think the issue is, Rory, with obviously Malmo the other night and the performance on Sunday? It was two very similar performances where they just never really get going. Do we think it is a blip, or is it a cause for concern that there's, as Wilson's mentioned before, I'm not a strong believer in it, but I can see the case.
I don't think the forward players are a cause for concern. Like here, Kent, I mean, players like that are going to have off days. For a winger that plays that way, for him to be as consistent over the last period of time that he has been is quite rare, I would say. So I wouldn't be too concerned. What would be concerning me is probably the manner of the goals they're losing. Mm-hmm. You know, that's 3 in 2 games now, and it was something that they prided themselves on last year. I think Goldson hasn't looked up to his standards of last season, and that's contributed towards a couple of the goals are a little bit more pressure on Rangers than there was last year. But I don't think the forward players are a cause for concern. I would say the first 2/3 of the field, I think the balance of the midfield, getting the correct 3 in there for the correct game. You know, Gerrard pretty much managed it perfectly last year out with the domestic cups. But I would say, if you're going to use the term cause for concern, I wouldn't go as far as saying that, but what I would say is they want to eradicate these defensive errors sooner rather than later.
Yeah, definitely. Tuesday's a big game, Wilson. Obviously, Malmo, there's potentially a chance that Rangers could get to a playoff round of the Champions League and generate some really, really good money. One thing that caught my eye, and it's caught my eye quite a bit, and I wanted to bring you in on this as well. Steven Gerrard came out after the game saying that it was his responsibility for the defeat. Do you buy that when a manager says that, or is it the manager's fault when a defeat like that happens, or have you got to is that to ease the pressure off the players and make them feel a bit less?
Yeah, I mean, I think you answered your own question there. It's to take the heat off the players. Yeah. You know, when I've managed, and not at the same level as Steven Gerrard, you know, when your team wins, the manager deserves the credit. When your team loses, it's the player's fault. That's the way it goes. But I think Gerrard's just taking heat off his players now. Again, Gerrard's went 18 months or whatever it is, you know, without probably losing 2 games in a row. And as I said earlier, I think he maybe gambled to a certain extent on making sure his best available 11 will be ready for Tuesday. And I'm talking about McGregor. He wanted to get some minutes in Morales, because I'm quite sure he'll probably start on Tuesday, and that gets him some minutes in the tank after his isolation period, whatever he was doing. So I can understand why Gerrard did it. I do think managers do that because, as I say, if you look at just a recent example last year, Neil Lennon came out quite often and criticised his players You know, and look how that ended up. You know, so Steven Gerrard will be fully aware of the power of a dressing room, even though he brought success last year. I think managers do that definitely to you off the players, because I think
Gerrard's been quite outspoken in the past when the results have been poor, especially when through a period he hasn't hung back in criticising the players. I just think it's the timing. Gerrard's in a position where he can comfortably come out and say it's his fault and there's going to be no pressure on him. You know, it's easy to say that. I think when they get beaten St Mirren in the Cup as well, he said the same thing. You know, Lennon can't come out after 3, 4, 5 bad results and go, it was my fault. You know, it's going to make things 10 times worse. And I think Gerrard has been quite outspoken in the past about the performance of his players.
Yeah, but last season, well, the couple of cup exits, but in terms of the league, he was never under any sort of pressure, so he didn't really have to come out and blame his players. And now I go back to the psychology of this, whereas if Steven Gerrard loses 5 games in a row, you know, I don't think personally he feels the pressure because he's played at such a top level. Whereas if the likes of, and I've went on about this before, about these Rangers players playing in front of crowds now, you know, they didn't do well in front of crowds before. Suddenly there's no crowds and they do well. Back to big crowds. There's that added pressure on them. Okay, and as I say, I always use Tavernier as an example. You know, was he good the previous couple of seasons, Rangers before they won the league? You would say possibly not. You know, and then it goes to a season of no crowds, and he plays on. He's remarkable. He was an amazing season last year, and I still think that's got a lot to do with it. And a lot of these guys are younger. Whereas Steven Gerrard's been over the course before. I think Steven Gerrard could lose 10 games in a row and not be under any pressure. Because as I said at the start of last season, I actually think Scottish football will go through a slight lull just now for a few seasons because of the 55 that was successful, the 10 in a row failed as such. I think a wee bit of interest has possibly dropped in it.
That brings you bring something interesting up there that a friend of the show, Callum, put up. Obviously, he joins me in the horse racing show. He touched a bit about it on a tweet a couple of days ago after the Rangers defeat, where he said, will Rangers play with the same intensity, not having that target of a stopping 10 in a row? I don't know if I necessarily buy that, but I can certainly see the argument. And it's the same way I don't necessarily buy the argument you've made about the pressure of the crowds, but I can see why people think that.
It's something you can never prove. The crowd theory is one that you could never ever actually prove. You know, you can have that opinion, and if Rangers continue to drop points, you could never dismiss the theory, but you could never prove it either. So, you know, why were Celtic so bad last year? You know, you can't. You know, there was no crowds last year.
Well, that's the next bit I was going to touch on. You know, so you saw Celtic today. Now, again, you can argue new manager, new players, etc. But I'll give you one example of Ryan Christie. You know, where's that performance been for the last year? Mm-hmm. You know, he comes out today, new manager, possibly different style, maybe suits his game better, but he didn't put anything like the effort or the performance in last year under Lennon, when there wasn't, and I know it was at 25,000 today, Rory. I know a lot of them were there to welcome you to Parkhead today out the front on your arrival. So yep. I do think it does play a major part. Now, I think in terms of Celtic as such, I think they see maybe the crowd as, you know, the 12th man, etc. You know, and they can inspire the players. Whereas I think sometimes all fans are the same. I'm not highlighting Rangers fans. Please don't be phoning in and complaining. Sometimes if, you know, and I've been there as a Kilmarnock fan a few times, like if Rangers haven't scored after 70 minutes, you know, people get agitated, you know, because they're expected to win. And I think sometimes that negative aspect puts a lot of pressure on players, whereas I don't think it would bother Steven Gerrard. I mean, he would have been at Old Trafford with 70,000 booing him, and he was still one of, if not the best player to play in the Premiership. Whereas some of these guys haven't played at that level, haven't played in big crowds, and are suffering from it. I genuinely believe there is, again, it's a theory that possibly won't be proved, but I definitely think there's a link.
How big's Tuesday night, Rory, for this Rangers team to get back to some sort of form? Obviously, we've touched on earlier about the money aspect, but it's also a massive game to get confidence back and get back to winning ways.
Yeah, I think they'll generate a good atmosphere on Tuesday night. And as Wilson says, that may work against them come the 70th minute if it's 0-0. We'll wait and see on that one. But it's a game I'm looking forward to. You know, there's not been many games up to this point with huge amounts of meaning. So, you know, this is going to be a good one. And I think it'll be tight. I think Malmo are a decent outfit. I don't think that Rangers will underestimate them. I think they'll give them the respect they're due. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but I don't think they'll go gung-ho. but I think they'll have enough on the night to win the game. Whether they have enough to go through in 90 minutes, I'm not quite sure. But as you touch on there, they need a performance. But the problem is a performance without qualification. It's not really going to bear much fruit, because they want to get to the Champions League. They want the financial rewards of getting to the Champions League from the top right down. It'll kind of cement what they've built for the last 17 months, and it'll give them the power to go and build more. Because Celtic have shown today what they're capable of. That was without James McCarthy in the team, and I'm sure they'll have a few more signings by the end of the transfer window.
I mean, I know you guys are very neutral, but would Rangers supporters be happy to lose the league but have a decent run in the Champions League to generate that income? If just say the Champions League was worth 60 million to them as a club to get to the group stages, possibly even qualification depending on the group, would Rangers fans be happy with that if they were not to retain the title?
I think because of the champions, the winners of the league get into the group stages next season automatically. So it's another massive thing. But I don't. I think the way it's been built up this season, I don't think any Rangers fan would be happy, and no Rangers fan would be happy losing the league anyway. But the advantage Rangers had, and still, I don't think one weekend changes a league. But I think a lot of Rangers fans feel this advantage in Celtic, and I don't think that's changed over the week. But I think a lot of Rangers fans will be sore after that result, because, as you say, it hasn't happened in a long time. But as we say, it takes two games and it's a crisis. That's all it takes. But I do think Rangers fans will be certainly not as. I think they'll calm down shortly.
I think the problem Rangers have got as well, but if Malmo do beat them on Tuesday, or maybe not beat them, but if Malmo qualify or they don't get to the Champions League, your Moreles, your Kent, etc., are they going to want to stick around? Do they want to stick around and try and beat Livingston and Ross County and Dundee United and Aberdeen, or are they kicking around for a crack at the Champions League? I think that is going to be a concern if Rangers go out. In terms of the Europa League, Kent has now had a season or two at that level. Moreles has proved they can do it at that level. For me, these guys may be chatting the door and going, look, time to move on if they don't qualify.
Yeah, but
do you think, though? I mean, again, you can only really speak from England and Scotland's point of view. Do you think there's Champions League teams that would be looking at Morales or Ryan Kent? And I'm not saying that disparagingly. I'm looking. I'm probably thinking, the top four in England, that they're not going to touch Kent or Morales for me. But I'm looking, are the top four in France, the top four in Italy, are they going to be looking at Ryan Kent? I know Porto seemed interested. Are they in the Champions League? I don't know.
They're on the Champions League.
Yeah. Will be, but I wonder, are they going to come chasing?
I think that's where, from Moreles and Kent's point of view, if they can if they can get the platform of the Champions League and they can score goals in the Champions League, then I know a top four English team, know your Bayern Munich, etc. But the kind of next tier, Porto are looking at him. I don't know who else is looking at him, but if he has a Champions League run where he scores 3 or 4 goals in a group stage of Champions League, and is starring for Rangers in it, then come January, come the end of the season, these teams will look at him and go, right, he can do a job at that level. So not only is he going to get his 20 goals in the French league, he's going to go on and he's going to produce in the Champions League as well. And I think that's the platform that these guys crave. And I think without that platform this year, Moreles and Kent will be looking at it going, we've got to strike while the iron's hot, because there's no other platform out there now that's going to push us to the next level.
We'll move on to the other game on Saturday. St Mirren 1, Hearts 2. Hearts now go 2 wins out of 2 through goals from Andy Halliday and Liam Boyce. Shaughnessy pulled one back for St Mirren. Wilson, Hearts have made a decent start. Are you surprised with their performances so far?
Well, again, they were riding on the crest of a wave from last week's result, and I actually watched a wee bit of the highlights. That they actually looked better than St Mirren. They looked actually quite comfortable. And again, you're looking at guys with experience. I know Rory's a big fan of Boyce. Andy Halliday. Craig Gordon. They have got some good players. My concern with Hearts and was never the squad. It was always the manager. Robbie Neilson doesn't seem to stick about at teams for long. He always seems to, and it doesn't always become to a company sense. So I had a wee bit of pressure on him, but he seems to have generated a good squad. They seem to be playing quite well. It's not just a case of big boys and shuffling about, but they look good. They look actually comfortable against St Mirren yesterday. I think just a wee bit of a mistake for the St Mirren goal, but no, with good experience and a wee mix of youth. The boy Cochrane looked good. Is it Ginelly that come on as well?
Yeah, Ginelly.
Yeah, looks good as well. So no, not surprised. Let's be honest. Hearts are a big club. Hearts should be up there with your Aberdeens and Hibs competing for third. Size wise and wages wise. So no real surprise that you can maybe beat Celtic the first game, but if Hearts want to finish top 6 this year, they need to go to Paisley and win.
Rory, what was your thoughts in Hearts 2-1 victory over St Mirren?
I think Wilson's covered most of it. I think that the keeper should do better. Jack Arnott for Hearts second. I think boys, it's a decent strike. I think he should save it. And I agree with Wilson there. If you want to finish in the top 6, you're going to need to beat. I think St Mirren will be contenders for top 6, 1 point out of 6 for the start of the season, but I still think they'll be up there come the end of the season. Kind of floating about 5th, 6th, 7th, with a shot with a few games to go. But every time the likes of a Hearts come to Paisley and win, and it kind of lessens their chances. But I like Hearts. I do. I think they come out flying out the traps against Celtic, and I think they won that game and deserve to win the game. Yesterday on the balance of play, they probably deserve to win that game as well. A good start to the season is vital. Just on Nielsen, I think he has. I see MK Dons are interested in James McPake, a move that Robbie Nielsen made. I think Robbie Nielsen almost went down there, lost his way a little bit when it didn't go well. I don't think he'll make the same mistake again. I think he'll be at Hearts for longer. There's no doubt in what Wilson's saying. He has left and he has moved on, but he's had to almost rebuild his career. He's had to go back to the Scottish Championship, albeit with a big club in Dundee United. He's now back at Hearts, and I think he'll see his long-term future there. He wasn't happy with the referee. I think he was feeling that Gary Mackay-Steven was getting some harsh treatment. He said that he was getting smashed about the pitch. He used that term a few times, so he didn't seem too happy with the officials. But what's a weekend in Scottish football without managers complaining about referees?
Yeah, definitely.
For me.
Aye, exactly.
Definitely. But Hearts move into joint top with Aberdeen and Hibs on 6 points. We'll move to the games today, and Celtic got their first league win of the season with a very convincing 6-0 victory over Dundee. Fantastic performance. Furuhashi obviously got the hat-trick. Rogic, Ralston and Edouard come in with goals. Rory was at the game, so Rory, tell us why you were so impressed with Celtic today.
They were impressive all over the pitch. What I would say is the way Postecoglou wants to play was evident. The two fullbacks, Taylor and Ralston. The Ralston especially was really, really good. Coming in the pitch, Abada going on the outside of him, Christie kind of hugging the touchline more on the other side. The interchange of positions, the interchange of play, the speed in which they passed the ball. And you could turn around and say, it was one of those days where everything went right for Celtic and everything went wrong for Dundee. It didn't really, because Celtic could have scored 10, 11. They were that good. Furuhashi.
New Japanese striker.
Aye. He missed 2-3 glaring opportunities as well as sticking the ball in the back of the net 3 times. But look, at the start of the game, I was slightly concerned from a Celtic point of view that he was going to be isolated. He's very small, he's very slight, although he's got a good spring on him. In that scenario, you need to move the ball quickly. You need to break the lines between, Dundee had a back 4 and then 5 in midfield in front of that. So it's not always easy as a lone striker. You can be cut adrift a little bit. But what he did do was he came short a few times and then he spun in behind a few times. And the 2 centre-backs of Dundee, Sweeney and Ashcroft, they didn't know whether to stick or twist. And see, in the end, they did neither. Rogic was on his game. And I firmly believe when Rogic is on his game, he's ability-wise, he's as good as anybody in the country, in my opinion. But he just doesn't do it enough. The commentator tonight on Sports Scene was saying that was his first goal at Parkhead in nearly 3 years. I would never have believed that. Christie was outstanding. His goal for Furuhashi. Can't get it right. Furuhashi. I say that about 25 times a day. The ball from Christie for his third goal was world class.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
it was world class. It was outstanding, and massive Celtic fans like Wilson must be scratching their head, going, where's Ryan Christie been for the last however long? Because he really was that good today. Callum McGregor, he barely spoke about him because the front players were that good, but he was probably just as good in the role that he played. The ones, again, we talk about the defence. Starfelt was losing possession a couple of times. He got into trouble at one point and had to put the ball over his own bar through misjudging a bounce and gave away a needless corner. The boy Welsh as well was a wee bit loose at times. So, look, I still think confidence at the back is a bit of an issue. Starfelt looks composed at times, and then at other times he does crazy stuff. So I think maybe they need to calm him down a little bit, get him a little bit more consistent in his ball retention. But that's picking faults, looking for faults. From middle to front today, Celtic were unplayable.
Wilson, what was your thoughts on Celtic's performance? It's you mentioned last week that you didn't think Furuhashi was that talented. He then went and scored a hat-trick. Do you think he's listened to you in the show?
Oh, he watched the show. He'd messaged me the other day. He said, thanks for the kick up the bum that I needed. But, he
texted Callum Davidson after the game. He might get a Wilson.
Wilson's number there. No, again, as we said at the start of the show, let's not get carried away. There's 2 games, and I seem to remember Harold Bratback scoring hat-trick after hat-trick against lesser teams, and then when it came to big games, be non-existent. So let's wait and see. Yes, a great start for him, 4 goals in a couple of games. It will do his confidence a world of good. But again, let's be honest, they're playing Dundee, new team coming up from the first, unfortunately, or the championship, I should say. And they go to Parkhead, and this is we've been over this before with probably every team in the ESPL. I mean, I can remember Aberdeen going to Parkhead and losing 7-8, 9-0. So
they were playing teams like Dundee last season as well, though, Wilson. And
I was going to go on. It shows you the difference, the confidence, as you said, highlighted about Rogic not scoring 3 years, Ryan Christie being posted missing, for a season, and that's what. If I was going to ask Celtic fans, I think somebody needs to come out and see what that issue was, because that squad of Celtic players feasibly could have made themselves as infamous as the Lisbon Lions if they'd won 10 in a row. And possibly bar Callum McGregor, none of them would get past marks over the course of a season. I include Scott Brown in that. I include Christopher Ayer, possibly guys that are better than what's there just now. So I would like to ask Ryan Christie, what happened last year? Why were you so poor last year, yet you turn on a performance like that when possibly different players, of course, there is different style of play, as I said earlier, but that would annoy me. That would annoy me how all of a sudden, it was a wee bit the same as these guys under Brendan Rodgers were incredible at times. Neil Lennon comes in and the standards drop, And I suppose you could argue the opposite of Rangers when they first won under Gerrard. I think, who are these guys? Then it was over
a period of time the standard dropped under Lennon, to be fair.
Yeah.
It wasn't instant.
It wasn't instant, but as I say, the change from Ryan Christie's last game to today is instant for me. Because let's be honest, he didn't rip the heather up at the Euros when he played for Scotland the first half against the Czechs. That's the answers I would be looking for.
Is that more kind of belief in a manager giving him more a free role, or is it better players with better confidence around them?
No, there's certainly not better players around them. There's probably actually worse players around them. Now maybe Ryan Christie wants to be the big fish in a small pond.
Or is it playing for a move?
Well, that's what we discussed in the chat earlier. And you look at the contrast. Now, I listened to Rory's commentary today, which was honestly on point. I mean, if there was any room for error in Rory's commentary, I would be wearing a T-shirt with whatever he said wrong on it today. But unfortunately, I actually have to praise his commentary and his analysis today. I thought it was first class. And I'm saying the same, and I think you and your co-commentator spoke about it as well, was about the Edouard situation. Now, I said last week after he was dropped for the Jablonet game, that yes, he should be playing. He should be on against them, scoring 3, 4, 5 goals and earning his move. Instead, he's going out there playing, I don't want to get injured in case it jeopardises a move. Whereas Ryan Christie's probably out there thinking, a couple of weeks of the transfer window stops, I'm out of here. So I'm going to turn in performance and try and get my move. I think that's what's happening.
Rory, you mentioned earlier about you see the idea Celtic are trying to play. Was it what was it you felt like watching like the likes of Abad and players like that? Do you feel as if they brought a new kind of dynamic way to Celtic's play?
I want to avoid cliches, but they looked organised. They looked like they knew what they were doing. There was elements of Celtic's performances last year which stunk of, we're Celtic, we're better than them, so let's go out and win. With no real game plan, no real plan as to how to do that. Whereas today, every player knew where they had to be. They knew when they had to be there. Furuhashi's runs weren't getting found in the first 10, 15 minutes. All of a sudden, there's balls down the side. They're communicating with each other. They're working cohesively as a team. They're moving across the pitch together. Ralston and Abada's relationship, you can tell that, I don't know whether they're doing individual training with Abada and Ralston on one side and Taylor and Christie on the other. Phases of play on a Friday leading up to the game. This is where you go when I'm here, etc., and get to know each other's games. But Anthony Ralston finds himself in the middle of the pitch. And for someone who I would consider, previous to the last few games, as an honest, hard-working professional who will give his all who doesn't have the ability to hold down a regular position at Celtic, all of a sudden you're looking at that and going, the 2 goals he scored were excellent technically. He finds himself in the middle of the pitch a few times, playing on Abada, playing nice passes into the striker. They just look organised, and they look like they know what they're doing. And when the play breaks down, they know where they have to be. They look well coached and they look well drilled. And it's not easy to play the way they're playing at the moment. But I just think that a clear vision was obvious today. And the more they build on that, and it's not going to work perfectly every single week, and they're going to come up against more difficult opposition than Dundee. They're going to have to go to places like Livingston where the ball bubbles up, and there was a massive downpour just before kickoff, and then the sun came out and it was a slick surface. So it was conducive to the way Celtic wanted to play. But I just think, and everyone a lot of people came out when Ange Postecoglou, that video came out of him saying, we play at the 91st, the 92nd. It was almost like everyone was saying, well, I would say that to my team. And I was kind of guilty of saying that as well. But today they didn't stop until the last kick of the game. And, they looked very, very hungry to score more goals.
Wilson, we saw at the end, Callum McGregor after the game, still kind of jamming up the players and getting them motivated. Do you think he has got the makings of a good captain?
Yeah, and I know we've had lengthy discussions with Rory, who's obviously best placed to tell us what the captain's role is. Whereas you looked at Scott Brown, who would be a more in your face, shouting, punching dressing room walls, whatever. Does a captain need to be like that? And as I say, I know Rory's kind of mentioned things like this before. I can't see Callum McGregor as the same captain as Scott Brown would be. So it might be a kind of welcome change. But he definitely has, the medals in the bag, the experience, plays for his country most games, well respected. So yeah, I can see why he's a captain, absolutely. And I think he'll do well. I don't think, as I say, he has to be digging folk up and throwing cups of tea around the dressing room. But yeah, I think he's got the makings of a good captain. Yeah.
We'll move on to Hibs' 3-0 victory over Ross County. Hibs go joint top of the league as well. Boyle, McGuinness and Deutsch getting the goals before 35 minutes. So it was a convincing first half performance. Wilson, were you impressed with Hibs' 3-0 victory today?
Yeah, it's an impressive result, but just as we touched on there with Hearts, Hibs will have ambitions to possibly break into the top 2 or 3 in the league. They had a good season last year in the league. So, yeah, if they have ambitions of that, they've got to be beating teams like Ross County at home. I know Ross County have had some issues with COVID, etc., and lack of training, but I do fear for them this season. I don't think they're going to be as good as we probably expected them to be. Malky Mackay signed a few players that appear to be a lot of younger boys on loan from bigger teams. So again, I don't know how that will go this year, but it was absolutely no surprise in the Hibs win. What did surprise me was it was 3-0 after about 35 minutes. Hibs probably didn't add to the tally, but that's 3-0 without Kevin Nisbet playing. So it's looking okay for Hibs at the moment.
Funny old weekend, isn't it? Lauren Shanklin, Kevin Nisbet and Lewis Ferguson out with slight knocks. Amid a transfer. At least
Rory,
2 of those 3 will be...
That's a good point, Rory. That's a really good point, actually.
See, when we touch on Hibs as well, obviously going into the game on Thursday, they're going to Croatia to hopefully get into the playoff round of the Conference League. Will this give them a massive boost of confidence, or going into that very important game?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, beating anyone 3-0 And I agree with Wilson. You're expected to beat Ross County at home if you're Hibs, but if you go and beat somebody 3-0, it's going to fill you with confidence. And watching the highlights there, they looked really good. One player who stood out to me over the last couple of weeks is somebody I played with before, Kyle McGuinness at St Mirren. Really promising youngster. He's not had his troubles to seek in terms of injury over the last kind of season or two, but I'm hoping he gets a run in the team because I think he could be very, very good. He scored a couple of goals, which, don't get me wrong, I would fancy him for 7-8 goals a season, but there's 2 and 2. So if he can hit double figures this year, then it would be good to see him in the side, getting a good run in the side. And the Doyle Hayes looks good as well, and the boy Newell's good technically as well. And that's before we've even mentioned the likes of your Scott Allens, etc. And then up front, Doyle just scoring goals. You get Nisbet, Boyle's obviously been consistently good for a number of seasons now. So you've got the boy Doyle at the back, and if he doesn't stay, Stevenson's more than capable of replacing him and stepping in. And it's looking good for Hibs. I don't see any reason why they can't finish top 3 again. But what I will say is I think Aberdeen looked better than they did last year. Despite the manner of their victory today, they were quite lucky to get the win. But I think it's going to be and there may be a bit of a lull in Scottish football over the next kind of couple of seasons, but hopefully not. Hopefully having Hearts back in the league, hopefully having the Glasgow, the Old Firm derby, the Dundee derby, the Edinburgh derby, hopefully that keeps interest in it. And what I quite liked today was, and touching on the reason for Christie as well, just going back to that slightly, and your McGregors and all the boys that were part of Celtic last year, for 9 years Celtic dominated. Last year Rangers ran away with it. So that whole idea that, right, we'll watch them play on the Saturday, drop points, then it's all going to Sunday, or they need to win on the Saturday, that's been missing. And that was a huge part of the excitement building up to the week. One plays on a Saturday, one plays on a Sunday, and one drops points. And I think it was an element of that today from the Scottish boys who've been part of Celtic over the last few seasons. They've seen Rangers get beat yesterday. How demoralising must it have been last year? Every single time they went to play a game, Rangers had 3 points. Or every single time they played first, they were dropping points. Demoralising. Then all of a sudden, a game into the season, you've lost away to Hearts. Build up to the next game, you've scored 4 goals away in Europe. You've made 2 signings of English Premier League quality. And Rangers, your biggest rivals, lose the day before. I think everything fell nicely for Celtic to be as motivated as they could have been today.
We'll move on to Livingston 1, Aberdeen 2. Bruce Anderson gave Livingston the lead against his former club before Teddy Jenks equalised, and then a late stoppage time winner from Jack McKenzie gave Aberdeen all 3 points. Rory, big result for Aberdeen as well. They moved joint top of the league with Hibs and Hearts. What is it about Aberdeen you feel's changed since the summer? Last year we know there was issues with goals and things like that. What do you think's changed?
Goals.
Scott Brown.
Goals. Scott Brown. Well, to be fair, I mean, no, I would say goals. To be fair, listen, Scott Brown's added, an element which Scott Brown can add to any team. And don't get me wrong, I think Aberdeen are a better team with Scott Brown in it. However, what I will say is that the boy Ramirez has scored a few goals. Listen, the game should have ended a draw today. That mistake for the goal at the end, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's horrendous. He sells the jerseys. I know he's a striker. He's a decent keeper, to be fair to him. I've seen him a few times, and he's a decent keeper. But today he sold the jerseys. Aberdeen fans all swarmed the pitch at the end. They were on the pitch, had to get them off. So you need little bits and pieces over the course of the season to go in your favour. And Aberdeen were handed a massive one today. But the strike from the young lad just after the break was a top strike. But like I said, over the balance of play, a draw would have been fair today from what I've seen. But Aberdeen were lucky to get over the line in the end.
Wilson, 2 players that have caught my eye in the past couple of games for Aberdeen have been Calvin Ramsey and Jack McKenzie. Are you excited with the prospect of young players coming through at Aberdeen?
No, I'm certainly not interested, to be honest. No, I was saying that. I was talking to somebody today about it, and I'm trying to do a wee bit of research. As folk will disagree with that. I'm watching the sports scene, but see when your team's not in that league, your interest genuinely wanes. Every time, I was listening to the Celtic Dundee game today for Rory.
Celtic are in the league.
I know, but I'm just saying, I was listening to the game today. You
said when your team's not in the league, though?
Oh, no, not at all. Come on, I'm not a fan. Tell I die. And then when they went to McDermott Park or to Livingston, I was going to get a cup of tea or quickly checking the kids or, do you know what I mean, get the washing in, whatever I was doing, because your interest wanes, because I'm thinking, well, you're not going to be playing well with St Johnstone, so I'm really not caring what the score is up there. But as I say, if Aberdeen are bringing through young players, they were renowned for that. When I was kind of growing up, your Scott Booths, your Ian Jesses and that. So it's always good for the national team as well. And that was one thing I was going to ask you at the Dundee United Rangers game. Steve Clark was in the crowd. Do you think he was maybe watching Charlie Mulgrew again? Who do you think he would have been watching? Or was he expecting maybe Shanklin to be playing? Or
leave that one to you, Pikey.
Scott Wright.
He come on as a sub, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Possibly Scott Wright, yeah. I'm not debating. I actually genuinely just wondered who would. I mean, I know he was at Motherwell St Johnstone today, and obviously watching Stephen O'Donnell, who scored an OG right enough. But I just wonder. I wanted to bring that in at the start. Actually, I wonder who he was watching at Dundee United Rangers.
He was at St Johnstone today. They've got a few defensively that been doing really well for a period of time.
Anyway, sorry, going back to Aberdeen.
You need to see Xander Clark's save as well, by the way, today. One of Xander Clark's saves is, again, I'll say it was world class. There you go.
I'm a big fan of his, to be honest. I'm a really big fan of his. I really do like him. But as I say, with Aberdeen bringing through, I mean, I'd never heard of some of these players before, to be honest. When it come through on Twitter, who scored the goals, I don't know who these young guys are, but great for them. And as I say, if Aberdeen can get a good mix of experience, with Lewis and Brown, etc., and bring through some young boys in. As I say, these should be a top 6 team anyway.
We'll move on to the final game of the weekend in the Premiership. St Johnstone 1, Motherwell 1. Fair result, Rory?
Probably. I mean, I'm going off the highlights in sports scene. The game took place today, and I've just come in and seen them. But it seemed that way. St Johnstone had some good chances early on. Stevie May was through 1-on-1 with the goalie, and took far too many touches, and the opportunity went. Boy Glenn didn't look quite sharp in the bits and pieces that I seen. Tony Watts was a magnificent strike, a really good move actually, and a fantastic volley. And he had another one exactly the same. It's one of those that you can look daft trying it, and then it can come off brilliantly. And he had both going different ways in the space of 2 minutes. He volleyed one right in the corner, and then the next one he totally mishit. But one each was probably fair. It's although St Johnstone went 1 up with having a trip to Turkey and then that game coming up on Thursday, 1-1's no disaster for them by any stretch, and Motherwell will just be glad to get off the mark with a point. So don't think either manager would have wanted a draw at the start of the game. I don't think either manager at the end of that game would be massively disappointed either. So I take a draw and move on for both teams, I would say.
Wilson, did you think St Johnstone maybe had a 9 Thursday night with the likes of Kerno playing?
Yeah, possibly. I think that will be a kind of strange experience for Callum Davis and the players. To think we've got one eye on a European tie come Thursday, but and I know we all have a good bit of banter off there. But I was surprised at the start of the season because Rory said at the start of the season he could see Motherwell struggling this year, and I actually think it could be spot on. Home defeat to Hibs, 1 point out of 6. It's not exactly the toughest start they've had. Home to Hibs and away to St Johnstone, and they seem to be toiling a wee bit, but maybe it'll just take Graham Alexander a wee bit of time. But he had the end of last season as well, so watch this space with Motherwell.
Dundee they've got next week, so that'll be. I think that's maybe in the cup. That's maybe in the cup actually, but that's a good point as well. They've probably had 2 favourable fixtures and 0 points. 1 point.
And that was our look at the Premiership. We're going to look at the rest of the leagues in the SPFL. We're going to bring Wilson in for his favourite league, the Championship.
Best league in Scotland.
We'll just go through the results quickly. Kilmarnock left it late with a Naismith goal to get a 1-0 win at Queen of the South. Ayr came from 2 down to draw 2-2 with Arbroath. Partick Thistle were a really impressive 3-0 victory over Dunfermline at East End Park. Inverness 1, Wraith 0, and Mortimer an impressive 1-0 away victory at Hamilton. Wilson, what was your story of the weekend in the Championship?
I think it's late winners. Jason Naismith's late winner at Palmerston. Keeping Kelly's 100% record alive, and as I say, that's the level we're at just now. And again, if you want to win leagues, which I think every Kelly fan's, not saying expectation, but anything less than first or second, I think they'll be shouting for the roofs. But yeah, you've got to go there and win games, whether it's a 90th minute winner or a first minute winner, it doesn't matter. Seem to play well. Forget the fella's name. That's a wee bit disrespectful.
You can't play well at Queen of. It's windy. It's rainy. That's tough. But no team's ever played well at Queen of the South, and I include Queen of the South in that.
Well, Queen of the South. The boy that marked Chris Buck yesterday. I forget his name. He was on the news as well. he had a really smashing game. You know, he kept Chris Burke really, really quiet, and I think Chris was getting a wee bit frustrated at times. You know, taking hits and all that kind of thing. And I wonder now if other teams in the Championship will think he had such a good game against there in the first game. He's now been, you know, kind of man-marked solely for the second. I wonder if other teams in the Championship will do that.
Such a tight pitch down there. It's astro, it's windy, it's really, really difficult to play a style of football that you work on all week. It really is. See, when you go to Queen of the South, it's about winning. It doesn't matter how you do it.
Well, exactly.
Kilmarnock have shown they can do that.
Yeah. So happy, top of the league, no problems, no goals conceded. There you go.
Rory, what was your result of the weekend of the Championship? Any results catch your eye?
Listen, it's hard to see kind of past Kilmarnock, but just for the sole reason that they're expected to win the league, and it's going to be fixtures like that where they potentially slip up, because I think they'll take care of these teams no problem at all at home. So I think at the start of the season I tipped Wraith. Obviously they'd struggled after going kind of 4-0 up and being top of the league after 65 minutes of the opening day. They're now probably bottom of the league. But Kilmarnock's 1-0 win. Like I said, I know how tough a place that is to go and how hard it is to win there. So, and they ended the season pretty well last year, Queen of the South as well. So I would second that, and I would say that, you know, 6 points out of 6 for Kilmarnock, a tough away fixture, a home win in the Derby, Ayrshire Derby, which is always you know, hotly anticipated. So, you know, 2 tough fixtures to start the season, 6 points out of 6, and they're looking good.
I think you've got to give a wee mention to Partick Thistle as well. That's some result, because a lot of folk had tipped Dunfermline, you know, to do really well this year. But
I thought they made the signing of the season, bringing in Todorov and Inverness. I thought that was one of the signings of the season.
I think that's a great result for Partick. Still think Kelly are better than them, and I think Kelly will beat them. But as I say,
I remembered that result. I would have said it, to be fair.
Sorry, we can edit this out, Rory.
We'll move on to League One, where there's a couple of really intriguing results. Queen's Park 2, Cove Rangers 0, Falkirk 2, Peterhead 1, Alloa 3, East Fife 1, Dumbarton 2, Airdrie 2, and Montrose 2, Clyde 2. Rory, what was your result of the weekend? Need to ask.
No, listen. Queen's Park Cove was always going to be, you know, well watched within the league in terms of the result. You want to see who the early pace setters are going to be, and you know, there's not just those two in that league. There's Falkirk as well. So listen, as much as we have a bit of a laugh on here, I think it'll be nip and tuck a lot of the times. You know, when Queen's Park have to go up to Cove, you would probably fancy Cove to get a result. 5 getting sent off early doors doesn't help the cause. So yeah, I would pick that as my result of the weekend, solely based on the fact that I think that it's 2 teams who will be up there come the end of the season. But advantage Queen's Park on going into the third game of the season. But by all manner of means, I do expect Queen's Park to go up.
Wilson, your mate Barry Ferguson, he had a good result at the weekend, 3-1 win over East Fife for his new club Alloa. Could they potentially cause a surprise in that league?
No, I don't think so. I just think, obviously, again, at the lower leagues, I think financial, you know, stuff comes into play there, and I think obviously budgets at Queen's Park and Cove, etc., will be slightly higher. I think possibly Falkirk will get bigger crowds there for more money in. But I would like to see him do well. You know, I'd be happy, you know, if he got them up or promoted into playoff places and a good season. As I say, I think he kind of struggled a bit after losing his job at Clyde, went to Celtic Hearts, did well for them again, ably financially.
Alloa must have been thrown. I don't know if it was financial. They must have been, for him to go there. When you look at Kelty's recruitment, Wilson, Alloa must have been. How did they get Barry Ferguson to come to Alloa, who've just been relegated, as you said, financial constraints? What have they said to him to get him away from Celtic Hearts?
Well, I don't know. Is it maybe? I mean, if someone asked me who's the bigger team, Alloa or Celtic Hearts, I'd be going Alloa. You know, and as I said, it's just a bigger team. You know, with all these financial things, as Alloa's been around a long time, does the arse fall out Celtic Hearts the same way that at Gretna? I know they pay money. You know, that's always just like Alloa an established, you know, Scottish team. Is that what he's possible thinking? I mean, I hope not. I hope Celtic Hearts going to do well. No reason not to. But and it's another league up. So is Barry Ferguson, I think we could surprise a few. Then he's in the Championship. Folk in the Championship start to take notice. Then it's maybe a Hamilton or a Morton or a Kilmarnock, you know. They'll look at him and he just maybe think that's what was best for his career. And he's went out on a high at Celtic Hearts. You know, got them into
Kelly are going to win that league by 20 odd points though. And
yeah,
I
but
think
that's them into the first. Whereas Barry's maybe thinking, you know, I'm in the first, could be into the championship. He's finding it.
I think if you win back to back at any level,
I'm
just surprised.
amateur level,
I'm really
Rory, and I still
surprised.
get slaughtered. So let's know. I don't think that's such a massive achievement, to be honest. But we'll talk about that in the amateur show, Scott. Don't you worry.
Yeah, definitely, will do.
So no, as I say, it would be a surprise for me if they won it. But I think the result in that league was Clyde, who were 2-0 down in the 90th minute and managed to escape with a draw, which burst their staff coupon. So that would probably be the result for me.
Only team to do your coupon?
Yes.
2-0 up with 2 minutes to go.
Falkirk and Forest Green comfortably winning, and we had Montrose. That was three of us picked one team each, and the gaffer John had Montrose, and they're 2-0 up the 90th minute. We're already texting each other, Miller and Carter.
What's the cash out? What's the cash out?
Exactly. Keep it, and then it ends up 2 each, and wow. So it was good. We always do find the bright side of it, but yeah, Buster couldn't. But some result for Clyde.
We'll move into League Two, where we'll just run through the results. Stirling 1, Kelty 3, Stranraer 0, Annan Athletic 3, Cowdenbeath 3, Elgin 1, Forfar 2, Edinburgh City 0, and Albion 2, Stenhousemuir 2. Rory, you've said there about Kelty Hearts recruitment. Do you just think they're going to storm that league?
I mean, I look at the players they've got. They've got, Cardle on one side and Higginbotham on another, who, have ran right in the championship at times. Not that long ago. It's not like they're waning in the stage of their career. I played with Ash at Falkirk, and he's a decent player who'll score goals, especially with the service he's going to get from these guys. But look at their backline as well, the likes of Jordan Foster and people there. They've got Tam Aware, some fantastic players for that level of football. And what they've got in Kevin Thompson is somebody who is a young coach who is going to get, I think, given the players he's got at his disposal, he's going to get the time and the opportunity to tinker with tactics, to tinker with a few different things, to kind of get his way of playing into them. And he's very calm. Don't get me wrong, he'll go through you, I reckon, if you're not performing, but he's very calm in pressure situations and things like that. So I think he'll get them promoted, and I'll be following his kind of managerial career closely, because I reckon he could do pretty well. But the result of that league, and they've started pretty well for me, would be Forfar. I think that being relegated last year, Gary Irvine got them a couple of good results towards the end of the season. They've started with 6 out of 6, so he's a really good guy, and it's good to see him doing well. So it'll be interesting to see where they end up come the season, but I think they could be, I know they've just been relegated, but a bit of a surprise package.
Wilson, what was your result of the weekend in League Two?
I'll just give a wee special mention to Christie Johnstone. I knew Chris from his time at Kilmarnock, and then he obviously got a really bad injury there, and he struggled to kind of get back into kind of full-time football. He came to the college and did some qualifications there as well, and it's nice to see him back on the pitch scoring goals. He's worked hard for that, albeit Jamie Hamill might be not happy with me saying that. He scored against his team, but a wee mention for Chris Johnstone, aye.
So, Annan, for you, we will move on to this week coming, where we've got a few big games in Europe. First of all, we will ask everybody for their predictions for the 5 teams. Rangers versus Malmo. Wilson, give us a prediction.
3-0 Rangers.
Big call. Rory,
Partisan crowd at Ibrox will see them through. The Lions Den.
Rory, what we got for Tuesday night? Rangers versus Malmo.
3-1. I think Rangers might concede, but I think we'll go through. 3-1.
Yeah, I'm going to go for 2-0. I think Rangers will get through. I think they're a better team. I think potentially the crowd will help, and I just think they will bounce back from the past week, which has been pretty poor. Celtic versus Jablonec. I think Celtic are going to have a full crowd as well. Wilson, give us a prediction for Celtic versus Jablonec.
3-0 against Celtic.
Rory, what we got?
I would second that. 3-0. I'll go 3-0. I know that Postecoglou is very big on playing to the last minute and getting as many goals as you can, but I think when you go 7-2 up, I think they'll ring the changes, and I think that I think you'll maybe see a more disjointed Celtic side towards the end of the game, maybe trying different things. You might see James McCarthy getting a few minutes as well.
Yeah, I think
he was out.
Was there a reason he didn't play today?
I don't know. I think he's had a few. I don't know the answer. This is just me surmising, but I mean, he's had a few muscle injuries. You're going to want to look after him. You're playing Dundee at home. You've got games coming up. It just probably made sense.
It said in the commentary he'd only had one session with the boys, so
right, okay.
Going to wait to see. So give him a week, and then
he was doing the session with the other ones after the game. So he might come into contention for half an hour or so. I still don't think he'll start the game on Thursday. He'll probably be in the bench and get 30 minutes, but. I think they could win 6 or 7 if they wanted to, but I don't think they'll play with the same intensity as they did today for 90 minutes. So I'll go with 3-0 as well.
Yeah, I'll go for 3-0. I think Celtic will just blitz Jablonec. I thought they were the better team in the first leg, and I think they've improved since then. Big call: St Johnstone versus Galatasaray. Wilson, can St Johnstone do it?
I don't see any reason why not. To be honest, as I said in the show last week, you could see Galatasaray winning 3-4-0. Also, you could see St Johnstone winning 1-0. I genuinely think, not as much as I'm a huge fan of Callum Davidson's, I think Galatasaray might just pull this off. I'll go 2-0 Galatasaray.
Rory, what we got for St Johnstone versus Galatasaray?
I think St Johnstone will come flying out the traps. I don't think Galatasaray will adapt too quickly to McDermott Park. And I think that St Johnstone might take the lead in the first, to kind of 10-15 minutes, getting crowd on their feet. But I think over the course and distance, Galatasaray have too much quality. So I'll say 2-1.
Yeah, I think I'll go with 2-1 as well. I just think Galatasaray will have more on the night. Aberdeen versus Breidablik with 3-2 in front from the first leg. Wilson, give us a prediction. Do you think Aberdeen will comfortably see this out?
I think this might be a draw, actually. I could see this team maybe. I'll go 1 each. One each for me, but Aberdeen to go through.
Rory, what we got?
I would be lying if I pretended to know anything about the team they're playing. But the form Aberdeen are on, they think they've won every single game they've played so far. So I'll see them comfortably through 1-0.
I think Aberdeen will win. I think I'm going to even go further and say Ramirez will score at some point. I've been really impressed with him so far, what I've seen. So I think Aberdeen will win 2-0. Final game, Hibs go to Croatia to play Rijeka. 1-1 draw from the first leg. Wilson, can Hibs qualify?
I think maybe a lot of that hinders is Kevin Nisbet going to play. Is he going to be fit, or is he going to still be at the club? Doig, you could argue the same with as well.
I think Doig's away, to be honest.
It would be. I think it's a shocker, to be honest, if Hibs don't go through. But again, is the Croatian league better than the SPL? We don't really know. Let's be honest. I could possibly see that going maybe extra time and penalties. I think if it does that, Hibs would go through, but in 90 minutes, I think they maybe lose.
Brilliant. Rory, what were you thinking for Rijeka Hibs? Did you see Hibs doing it in Croatia?
Remember, Hibs have a massive game on the Sunday as well in the Premier Sports Cup, so they might rest a few, concentrate on playing the biggest team in the competition.
Kelly away, innit?
Yeah.
Nah, they'll rest a few for that championship opposition. No. Listen, again, it's difficult to call. That teams came to Easter Road and got a draw, but again, with no real knowledge of the opposition that they're playing, I'll say it'll finish 1 each in normal time and go all the way to penalties. Who wins it from there? Who knows?
So that is, I'm going to go for Hibs to win. I think Hibs will win 1-0. I think Kevin Nisbet or Christian Doig, I don't know, one of them will score.
So because I've picked him for top scorer this season. He's not scored yet.
The European games don't count.
Nah.
Oh, that's a way for him.
Boise's off the mark.
I think Hibs will win. I think St Johnstone are the only team I think will struggle to get through. Also, they're playing against established European teams, so I think they'll probably be the toughest game. But I can see all 4 other teams qualifying comfortably. We are going to wrap up the show there. I just want to thank Wilson and Rory for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks for having us on, Scott.
We are going to be back on Friday. We are going to do Scottish Football Show Extra. We will take a look at the action in the West of Scotland Football League and we will recap all 5 games in Europe. Thanks very much to everyone that's tuned in on YouTube and our podcast channels. Please subscribe to us on those channels and follow us on social media. Thanks very much, everyone. We'll see you soon. Cheers.